Director McLaren.
Here.
Director Ariki.
Here.
Director Calandri.
Here.
Director Urasi.
Here.
Director Paris.
Here.
Phyllis Stannon.
Here.
Arden Wells.
Here.
And Craig Parton.
Here. We just want to announce our alternates that are either present or
And we
online.
also have Angelica Martin. And is Adrian on the line? Adrian Recca?
Okay.
Angelica is here.
Thank you, Patty. And we're on the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Kathy. Second by Brandon. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion to adopt the agenda by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri? Director Urasi?
Yes.
And Director Paris?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on public comments for non-agenda items. Mr. Kyle, any comments?
It's a nice day.
It is. Thank you for being here today, sir. No further public comments. There are no special presentations. We're now on the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion made by Brandon. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Kathy. We'll give you the chance next time, Adam. You got me.
That's okay. I was just trying to speed up the process.
No, I appreciate it. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of approving the consent agenda by roll call vote?
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri?
Yes.
Director Urasi?
Yes.
Director Paris?
Yes, motion carried unanimously. We're now on item 7, advisory committee report. James, anything you want to add other than your minutes or memorandum that you provided?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, the memorandum speaks for itself, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great, thank you, James. Any questions regarding the advisory committee?
No.
Okay, that brings us to number 8, administrative committees. And Matt, did you want to report?
Yes, thank you. Good morning, this is Matt. So the administrative committee met last Friday. Directors Urasic and Ariki. We went through in detail the payment of bills that was just approved. We also went through the agenda for today's meeting. We spent a little bit of time talking about the transition that's taking place with the Hallmark Group and the interaction with the existing staff and the Hallmark Group. And I'll report more on that under the administrator's report. And give an update of where we're at with the budget. And we also discussed continuing with the teleconference meetings, the remote meetings that we've been doing. So we talked about those items, unless that's all I have to report, unless Adam or Derek have any comments.
No, I think you covered it well. The only thing I would add, you indicated also that we will have the administrative committee will meet to go over the budget.
Yeah, thank you, Adam. Yeah, that's correct. So we are working on the budget, and we're going to present that to the admin committee next Friday. And then from there, we'll go to the advisory committee and then present it to the board at the next meeting.
Great. So thank you, Matt.
Yep.
And Derek, anything else to add? That's a no. We're on item 9, consideration possible action on reproduction applications. That's going to be our engineer, and we're now on item A.
Hi, good morning. So the first new production application that we have today is for Moises Salazar, and this is for 3 acre-feet per year in the West Antelope subbasin. And this is in the packet on page 31. And if you're looking at the pages in the PDF, this is going to begin on page 35 letter. So Mr. Salazar is requesting 3 acre-feet per year in the West Antelope Subbasin. This will be for a 2,200 square foot single-family home with an additional 1,300 square foot garage. He's planning to have about 15 to 20 irrigated fruit trees and then 50 feet of irrigated landscaping. So this is located in the northeast portion of the West Antelope Subbasin, and this is down gradient of the west side water bank. There are rising water levels in this area, and the advisory committee pointed out that there are numerous factors contributing to the water levels rising in this area. It is down gradient of recharge from the water bank, which is something primarily contributing to the increases, but also factors like ramp down and overall decreased pumping in the sub area are contributing to the increases in water levels in this area. 10 members of the advisory committee voted yes for this new production application and 1 member abstained.
Okay, anything else? Any questions regarding item A?
I have a question for Arden. I don't know if you've heard of pumper class. So have you considered those factors in your assessment?
In our assessment, we primarily just look at material injury and whether or not the pumping in this area will affect the aquifer. For this particular application, we did ask some questions back and forth, and originally the water level requested was a bit higher. It was, I think, 4 or 4.5 acre-feet per year. And we talked with the applicant who spoke with Duke Engineering, who did kind of the water assessment on how much they would need, and the amount was lowered to 3 acre-feet per year. So the role of us kind of processing the application, it's not our position to determine whether or not the water use is accurate for the amount requested. But we're mostly looking at the water levels. But I agree with you that 3 acre-feet is quite a bit of water.
So and that's fine if that's how you feel, if it's not your role to assess if the plants are made of vegetations and everything needs to be done was done and all that, whose job would it be then? Would it be our staff or administrative staff?
I think Phyllis has some thoughts on this.
Yeah, good morning, Adam. It's Phyllis Stannon. We actually do, I want to clarify something that Arden said. We actually do look at each application's water use with respect to what they're proposing to make sure that the water amounts that they've requested match what they're proposing. And we also do require, as required by the judgment, water conservation measures, which are being incorporated into this application. I think it's a policy question for the board if they would like to limit the amount of water being requested for each applicant's home as we go forward. I will point out that all of the applications that we have seen so far the applicants are required to pay a replacement water assessment, and they are also required to not overpump the amount that's being approved on the application. So I think that has sort of spurred some applicants to make sure that they're covered so that we don't go back and forth if they go just a little bit over for a domestic water use. So those are the factors that we've been considering.
And understood. I appreciate that. So here is my concern. Whether it's LA County Water Authority or any retail agencies, there are green ordinances. The county has a green ordinance. The cities have green ordinances. So there is an emphasis on the use of native vegetation and minimizing grassy areas because we, as you know, I don't have to tell you that we are in a drought and it keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And in the past, we've discussed this, and we have said we should really review those applications from that perspective. In other words, is there an attempt to reduce the green area? Is there an attempt to use native vegetations? Because they need to do their part like everybody else. We do the same exact thing to customers that come to the waterworks district asking for water. So I hear you about what you're saying about policy and limitations. And the limitation is fine and okay, yeah, the 3 acre feet is the amount that is limited to small pumpers. But I think we need to look at the practice, the vegetations, the trees. Are they following the green ordinances that the cities and the counties have adopted in light of the drought? And I leave it at that. Maybe other board members have opinions.
Adam, this is Rob. What I would recommend, we're not going to come to some conclusion regarding this topic, but maybe you and Derek can discuss the administrative.
Rob, I can't hear you well.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yeah, this is much better.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about that. I had my mic off. I'd recommend that you and Derek discuss this in the administration committee and maybe bring a agenda.
We actually did. We didn't take any actions, but we did.
Yeah, so we're not going to be able to resolve this with this item right now. So this is.
Well, I wasn't looking for a solution, Mr. Chair. I was just pointing out to the board what my concern is and what I see as a concern, with the hope that maybe, like you said, either a policy or whatever will come out of it. We can take it to the administrative committee and discuss it and come up with a recommendation.
Yeah, I think that would be good, and then put it on as an agenda item so we can prepare for it, and then let's just have a discussion to see if we want to go in a different direction.
Fair enough.
Great.
I mentioned just one thing here. This is Craig Parton.
Go ahead, Craig.
These are new production applications, and the board approved amending the rules and regulations to add a section that addresses new production amounts as being the maximum amount that can be pumped, and there's various penalties that are imposed if the watermaster engineer decides or learns that the new production amount is being exceeded regularly. And we have some real teeth in the rules and regulations. So I just remind everyone that new production applications, you can't just play the system and overestimate how much your production is going to be and then or underestimate it and pay replacement water assessment for the overage. The watermaster can take steps if you're constantly or regularly over for 2 years in a row your new production amount. They can enjoin your production. So I just remind the board that we addressed that in Resolution 2124 last year and provided for a new amended section of the rules and regs. That's all.
Yes, and I recall that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
And so that in order for that to happen, we obviously need to monitor that. But the other issue that I wanted to bring up here is, again, the use of drought-tolerant plants and native vegetations.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Adam. Any other discussion? Hearing no other discussion, is there a motion to approve resolution number R2260?
This is Derek. I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Derek. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Adam.
Actually, no, give that second to Adam.
Okay.
Adam, you got it.
Thank you,
Hearing
Mr.
no
Chair.
further discussion. Hearing no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve resolution number R2260 by roll call vote?
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ariki,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item B, resolution R2261, and please go ahead.
Thank you. The second new production application that we have today is for Ron Bannock to provide construction water for the gym center, which is a compressed gas storage unit center. And this is on page 47 of the packet, and within the PDF, the letter begins on page 51. He's requesting 15.4 acre feet for use in 2023. And so a little bit of background about Mr. Bannock's well. Mr. Bannock is a small pumper in the Western Antelope Subbasin, north of the West Side Water Bank. So in the northeast portion of the basin, as well as the previous application. He has a domestic well on his property in this area and also an industrial well. The industrial well has supplied trucked water to construction projects in the past. In September 2020, 215 acre feet per year was granted to Mr. Bannock and the industrial well for use in 2020 and 2021 to support construction for 2 solar projects. In 2021, he submitted an additional new production application, and this would be to continue using 215 acre feet per year from this industrial well to supply water to construction projects. This application was just for future use and not for any specific projects. It was not approved because it was not affiliated with any specific approved projects, and it was determined in order for water use to be approved, it needed to be affiliated with an approved project. However, with this 2021 application, there was a material injury assessment done for 215 acre feet per year of pumping from this well. It concluded that 215 acre feet per year of production from this well would have negligible material injury as defined by the judgment. So zooming back in on this particular new production application, he's requesting 15.4 acre feet for use in 2023 to support this compressed gas energy storage unit. The center is about 1.4 miles to the east of his property, also in the Western Antelope Subbasin. The area in this area has been seeing rising water levels due to the water bank ramp down and several other factors. And the water for this project would be pumped from January to November 2023 in a bell-shaped curve. So more pumping would occur in the summer, and the primary use for this would be dust control. This application was originally submitted for 2 different projects, this project and a solar field, but it turns out that the solar field has not yet been approved. So we requested that an application just for this was resubmitted. And if the solar field gets approved, then it'll be submitted as another new production application for approval. In all, we recommend that this new production application, the water use extends to the end of 2023 to account for the construction delays, even though the application says January to November 2023. In our review, based off of a material injury analysis for this amount of water and also kind of building on the previous material injury analysis for 215 acre feet per year, we concluded that material injury would be negligible as defined by the judgment. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Arden. Is Mr. Panic the owner of this compressed gas project?
No, he is not. Rosendean, I need to look at the exact name, but it's another company that he would be pumping the water for, or they would be utilizing his wells and trucking it to the center.
So he's retailing this water and selling it to them?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Interesting. And why didn't the owner of the project apply for water?
They do not have a well on the property, and this would only be used for construction. So the water would only be needed in 2023. And they may, in future dates, potentially install a well for maintenance purposes. But for construction, they did not have a well for the water.
Okay.
Adam, this is Brandon. I have a question. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Thank you.
I have a little bit of an issue with this as well. Getting replacement water, especially with the location of this water, there's plenty of AVAC turnouts and sites available on the west end of the valley. If you're doing a project like that, it seems like the first course of action would be to speak to AVAC for water availability. I understand in the adjudication there's an allowance for construction needs, but I also think with alternate sources of water available, and quite frankly too, it doesn't make me feel that comfortable somebody using replacement water for profit in this fashion. I'd sure like to see a path, if we can, for them to exercise every other option before just going directly to the replacement water. We're creating an environment where people are counting on replacement water a little too heavily. And with us looking at another dry year coming up and the potential lack of availability of imported replacement water, it just seems like we've really got to pay attention to some of this stuff. And I don't have a solution for it, but I do think it needs to be at least discussed.
I really appreciate you bringing that up because Mr. Panic has done this now, at least as I recall, this is the third time, where he applies for water and he retailed that water to someone else.
Well, and it's my understanding too that there's a electrical contracting company that's making arrangements to try and intervene into the judgment for solar projects. They appear to be going down the correct path in either using AVAC water or becoming part of the judgment and purchasing carryover water. I'm just not sure that this is the correct intent for what the replacement water should be being used for.
Any other discussion? So I'd like to weigh in on this. We have done this in the past. Mr. Bannock is out there providing a service to people that are bringing in jobs and working on projects that we need. And if we do want to discuss this further and come up with some other alternate policy or recommendations, I think that would certainly be appropriate. But I don't think at this point we should do anything regarding this request. But again, take it to the administrative committee, have this discussion, and if we're going to change our direction, we should make that really clear to the public to do that. Would that be acceptable to everyone?
I agree. I agree. I think that's a good idea.
Great.
And something more just to touch on real quick in that issue. When you go to construct a facility, if you want to put in a domestic well, it's contingent on the fact that you don't have water availability from other sources. So we might want to examine some of the policies that already exist and maybe try to apply them to our procedures.
Okay. Good discussion. Any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Derek. I'd just like to add, I think, Rob, I agree with you and points you're bringing out that, he is providing a service above and beyond just, selling of the water that a company needs to expand, in the valley and provide jobs and services. So I agree that, I want to be cautious as well as that we are become the regulator of who can get water and who can't based upon our determination. It's a slippery slope. So I just, advise this board to be very careful on us making judgment calls or, deciding what's best for water, and they come back to us.
Good commentary. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, is there a motion to approve resolution R2261?
So moved.
Motion made by Brandon. Is there a second? Second by Kathy. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote.
Director McLaren,
Yes.
Director Ricky,
Yes.
Director Calandri,
Yes.
Director Urasic,
Yes.
Director Paris.
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. We're now on item 10, Administrators Report. It's the Matt Show.
All right, thank you. Good morning again. So a few items to update the board on this morning. The first one is an update on the administration transition to the Hallmark Group. That's going very well. Over last month, we've had several meetings with the Hallmark team and then have involved them with discussions on the USGS program, the budget preparation, application fees, etc. So very good team to work with. Yesterday we had a good meeting with Jacqueline Harris, who's going to handle all the financials. I think you guys will all be impressed with her, what she's got planned for the Watermaster. I think she's going to do a great job. Also, Jim Beck has been involved in those various discussions. So overall, the transition's going good. One thing I did learn is that you all should know is Jim refers to go by Jim. Don't call him James. So call him Jim, and he'll be happy. So next item is an update on the 2023 budget. I mentioned this earlier, that we're going to present a draft to the administrative committee next Friday. From there, we'll go to the advisory committee in hopes to bring a budget for approval at our special meeting in early December. The Hallmark Group and Todd Groundwater are also reviewing our application fee schedule to ensure that we're charging the appropriate fee to the applicants so that the admin or administrative assessments aren't subsidizing the application fee process. I'm sure they're going to come to the board with a revision and proposal to the application fee schedule when we present the 2023 budget. Our plan right now is to keep the admin assessments for 2023 at $5. So we're working within that to develop the budget. So you'll see that next month. I mentioned the USGS program. We're up for renewal of that, the groundwater monitoring program with the USGS. As you know, Watermaster is the contract holder with the USGS. Watermaster took that over from the association a couple years ago. We're working closely with USGS staff. The first proposal that they submitted was a little bit higher than what we anticipated for our budget. It was about $82,000. And we expressed that we need to stay within our $72,000 target to hold the budget. So they're working with us on staying within that $72,000. There may be a couple wells that drop off of the program to help stay within the budget, but we're working closely with Todd Groundwater and the USGS to fine-tune that agreement and bring it to the board next month. And then lastly, just a reminder that we won't have a board meeting in November due to the holiday. And we're going to combine the November-December into a special meeting scheduled for Wednesday, December 7th. So if you all could look at your calendars and make sure that date works. It's the first Wednesday in December. Is that good for everybody?
What is the date you're looking at?
December 7th at 10 a.m.
I cannot do December 7th.
I'm going to be out of town. I could potentially call in, but will be not available to be in person.
I am available December 6th all day. That helps me. And also December 8th in the morning.
Well, Derek, I thought I heard Derek saying he can call in.
I could call in the 6th or 7th, but not be in person.
Right. So why don't we keep it for the 7th if everybody can do it?
Because Adam, I can't do it on the 7th.
Oh, understood. I didn't hear that. Okay.
But I am available all day on December 6th.
Okay. We could do,
Good. Adam, are you okay with December 6th?
I am not okay with December 6th.
And that's fine. I can get Dwayne to cover me if we
Yeah.
go forward on December 7th. That'd be fine.
okay. We'll stick with the 7th at 10 a.m.
Thank you.
Did you say you were available to call in on the 7th?
I am. That's correct. I think you're asking me, Brandon. Yes.
Yes.
All right. Perfect. That's all I have to report unless you have any questions.
I do have one question of Adam and Kathy. Does the public water suppliers have an alternate in case one of you can't make a meeting?
Yes. I have one.
Well,
Okay, great.
but LA County Waterworks is separate. So
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Adam,
we do. We do.
You have an alternate? Not that we need to do it now,
Yeah.
just for in the future. Or
Yes. Yes.
Who is your alternate?
You don't remember him? Richard.
Richard? Okay. No, I remember Richard. I don't remember him being at a meeting. So thanks for letting us know.
all right.
Okay, we got that set, December 7th, 10
Yep.
a.m.? Okay,
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we're on the Watermaster Engineers Report. Phyllis?
Yes, good morning again. Phyllis Stannon with Todd Groundwater. I have two quick items this morning. The first of which is a set of tables that we present every month in your board packet showing the approved new production applications as well as the new qualified small pumpers. For this month, your table is on page 65, and it shows new production on the left, qualified small pumpers on the right. The top tables are by year, and the bottom tables are by sub-area. The only difference in this month is an additional 1.5 acre-feet a year for the new production and one additional small pumper that's been added to these numbers. Be glad to take any questions anybody might have about the table on page 65.
Any questions? Hearing none, go ahead. Anything
I'm
else?
sorry, did someone say something?
No. Did you
Okay.
have anything else? There are no questions.
I do. I have just one. I have one more really quick item. If you'll give us the opportunity here, I have on the phone Mike Maley, and we wanted to again kind of keep the board updated every month on the progress that we're making in the development of the Antelope Valley Watermaster numerical model. And so
Yes.
we just have a very quick verbal report this month, and if I could turn it over to Mike Maley just for a real quick summary, would like to do that now. Mike?
Okay, thanks, Phyllis. I'll just talk to you. Well, first, I just kind of maybe go over the scope that we proposed, just as a review. So we had kind of a 3-year plan to update the model over and doing a little bit every year. The first scope or first one was to come up with a material injury model or a model that could be used for that. The second one is look at safe yield components, and the third one is to look at the recharge. To give you an update, so for the material injury, we have now developed an initial base case for the material injury. This is a forward-looking model. We're using kind of long-term average hydrologic conditions, and we're assuming pumping at the water rights. This provides us an ability to look at long-term regional material injury, more of a cumulative type of analysis. Things that we've kind of talked about of looking at the kind of cumulative long-term of new production or permanent transfers and that sort of thing. Our next steps on that, we'll do an internal QA of the input and assumptions, and then look at developing some initial scenarios to kind of take it through its paces and evaluate that. The second part that we did this year was to review the existing model. So again, just kind of with our scope, we were looking at basically resurrecting the existing USGS model, and that was then later modified by Geoscience. So we have reviewed those. And the purpose of that review was just to make sure we understood how those models were constructed, where the data came from, how they were applied. So we had to compare their water balance to what was into the expert report. One thing we, found and kind of recommending for change is that the models use some simplifying assumptions that we feel that could be improved for the task being requested for the Watermaster engineer. They use a long-term average hydrologic condition, so the natural recharge is assumed to be the same every year. However, that varies from year to year, sometimes dramatically in this desert environment. And also we're kind of now in a period of drought, so that would be something we want to look at. The other one is a simplified assumption both on the distribution of the return flows and also the timing of a return flow reaching the groundwater and whether that should vary around the basin. So those are some things we feel that probably need to be looked at and improved. The benefits, the reasons for doing those improvements is that they would really help us look at the kind of year-to-year change, including the change in storage, which is one of the things we were looking at for, especially for the Task 2, and help us look at some of the short-term material injury assessments. Our next steps on that is we've identified these things, and then they will be rolled in and addressed in Task 2 and 3. And also part of it is looking at data requests to kind of support those Tasks 2 and 3. And right now we're looking at this, what we're calling the gap year pumping, which is between the end of the expert report and the beginning of the Watermaster engineer, trying to gather up the metered pumping that primarily be from the urban. So we'll be getting that out at some point. And that's my report. Any questions?
So when will we be able to use the model, at least the material injury analysis part of it?
Well, we're looking at taking it, doing these initial ones. So I guess in a sense we're going to put it in production and test it, and we'll see how it does. So we're going to look at it. I mean, like I said, we're doing a QA, make sure we go through the information, but we're looking to get it set up and start going. And then from there, we'll have to work with folks about what kind of scenarios and things that would be appropriate. And again, like I said, this will be first looking at more long-term regional ones because we still have these simplifying assumptions in our material injury as we move forward. And we kind of address some of that. We'll look to make the model better able to look at some of the more short-term and local material injury questions.
And Adam, I'll just
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to say I'll add to what Mike just said. So the model is up and running right now, and Mike has identified a couple of things that we feel like are making it sort of an inaccurate picture. It's difficult right now because of the sort of smushing of some of the components in the model. Everything's looked at on an annualized basis, so it's sort of hard to kind of match water levels at this point. And we were hoping to make some improvements in that, but Mike has the sort of base case running right now. And if we wanted to, we could go ahead and proceed with a sort of cumulative analysis as an example, if you'd like. One of the things that we would like to do, however, is to go ahead and sort of handle some of the inaccuracies first, so that we'd be looking at something that was a little more real and a little more substantial than what might happen right now, given the current state of the model. And so we'd like to get a little bit further along before we have and so it's difficult to answer your question. I know everybody is anxious, and we could do the base case and a cumulative analysis right now and show that in December if you'd like. But it
No,
wouldn't
that's
be.
fine. What are the inaccuracies that you're referring to?
I'm probably not presenting it correct when I say inaccuracies, Mike. It is a.
It is
I'm gonna
more.
ask you to take over.
Yeah, it's a simplifying assumption. So, like for the natural hydrology, they apply 60,000 acre feet per year, every year, regardless of what the natural hydrology is. That is, was in the expert report. Even they have that as more variable. So then we need to kind of recreate that and put it, and that'll give us. And then a really big one is probably the return flows, because that's really affects, and that's really looking at when you look at the history matching, you get sort of a smooth line through a very kind of variable hydrograph, and so we'd like to put some of that variability back in, so that is a better simulation for what we're.
Okay, so you're referring to the existing model, the one you built on?
Yeah.
I see. Okay. All right. Okay. So you think this variability smoothing is going to take, a couple of months or so?
Well, I guess we're kind of looking at, that would be what we're going to look at in task 2 and 3. Right now we do have, like you said, that long-term average material injury, and we can start using that. Kind of the idea of this scope was to start phasing the model into production and getting it set up so it can address different levels of questions as we get to it, so we can get to this first level, and we'll keep working at it and keep adding, make it more useful over time.
Yeah, that would be nice, to see, and you could do some ground truthing, the old methods and new methods, and see how close they come as you tweak the information.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
And then I just wanted to also add, and remember Mike said that we would be coming back to the Exhibit 3 parties and asking for metered pumping from 2009 through 2015. We would like to get that gap filled in at some point. We have some information from Votrans and the production averages that were presented, but because the water suppliers have such accurate data, that they've all been metered for so long, we would like to go ahead and get the most accurate numbers into the model that we can for that. So we will be sending out an email data request. So if you're on Exhibit 3, please look for that.
Votrans doesn't have that? I think they should.
It doesn't have 2009 through 2015. It has some average numbers associated with 2011 and 2012, and it just doesn't cover that full gap period.
Yeah, that data is readily available. Just ask for it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Phyllis. Any further questions of Phyllis?
Yeah, this is Derek, and just maybe a question and comment to Phyllis and Mike. Number one, I'm glad we're not showing a preview until you guys have the opportunity to do work on that model, because my experience has been it will start driving us to react in certain ways, and I don't want to react until we have the best information that we can on the model. And the second question is there going to be an opportunity for a technical review? Phyllis, I know, in other areas and other experiences, it's always good to have third parties, whether they're the agencies or any of the Exhibit 3 or 4 holders, to have a chance to review it with their technical support to provide feedback and comments.
It is going to be the Watermaster's model and would be subject to anything that the Watermaster would like to do with it. So the answer to that is yes. There isn't an outside technical review incorporated into the budgets right now, but we're certainly more than willing and happy to provide the model at whatever point we decide to be subject to anyone else's review if they'd like.
Great, thank you. I'd encourage that, maybe as another topic later that we talk about that. Rob, that'd be great.
Very much. Thank you very much. Good report. We're on item 12, General Counsel's report. Craig?
Yes. I'll save the closed session for specifics. I had anticipated having a hearing on October 25th and 26th that would give us answers to the 4 matters that are pending before Judge Comar in San Jose, but at midway through the month of October, we received notice that one of the attorneys to be involved had a conflict with another case that they were involved in and couldn't make the October 25, 26 date. So the judge put over the public hearings on the 4 matters that we have before them to December 13 and 14. And we'll have an update of that. The December meeting that we meet on December 7th, we still won't have had a result from the hearing on December 13 and 14, but we'll keep the board updated on that. The second item is a discussion of the use of groundwater cadaver. That is a placeholder there. Director Calandri mentioned at our last board meeting in October that there was some concern with respect to water usage. Cadaver, to my knowledge, and staff are welcome to correct me, is a small pumper class member who's taken the position, I believe, with the Watermaster and staff that she no longer has used a well since 2018 on the property. She pumped groundwater in 2016 and 17, but the well either malfunctioned or wasn't being used since 2018. So there may be other information that staff wants to make the board aware of, but that was there primarily to spur conversation amongst the board members as to whether we need to pursue this as an enforcement action based on facts in our possession, and if so, we'd agendize it for a closed session to discuss that. But I believe Director Calandri has some concerns based on his own observations as to what that small pumper class party is doing. So I open it up if anyone wants to be heard on that. Maybe we start with whether staff has any further information or Phyllis with respect to Cadaver and their water usage.
Are there any questions? Yeah. Any new information? No? Phyllis, any new information?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Okay. Brendan?
Nothing new to add right now.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Craig.
Okay, if nothing to add, then we'll defer on that. The second item is George Brittner, who is an Exhibit 4 party and has a substantial receivable. And we would like to hear the board's direction on that. We would make contact initially by letter, and would plan to do that and then move to enforcement as may be required. But Brittner was identified simply by virtue of the size of the receivable, which is about $42,000.
Can you give us a little summary on, a little bit more summary on that, Craig? Is Mr. Whitner,
I don't have, maybe the staff, Chairman Paris might be better situated to know. He's in Exhibit 4, got a production right of 4 acre-feet a year. I don't have further information that staff may be able to discuss what production reports have been produced and what, if any, contact there's been with Mr. Brittner historically.
Well, we had not had recent contact with them, and I think we were expecting to receive a 2021 annual report. I did make a phone call last month after the meeting to see if there was any answer on the phone, and he's got a message there that he's no longer providing water. So that's the only thing that I have on him. He is an Exhibit 4 producer, has 4 acre feet of water. Oh, and he is outside of the state water contractor boundaries, so that's why his bill is so much higher, because he has to pay the higher amount for any water that he uses.
And how were we aware of what his usage was based on his prior reports?
On prior reports, yeah.
And then no report for 2021?
But he did not report for 2021.
And
yeah.
Do we know if he has a metered well? Or?
I believe he had some type of a meter on the well. I don't know that it was approved by the Watermaster yet, but it was metered.
Okay.
Do we have a meter number for that electric bill?
We'd have to look at the thing, yeah. We'd have to look at his reports.
Well, I'll lead the charge on this one. He owes us $41,000. My desire would be to get the money, whatever it takes.
Okay. Any other discussion? Then I don't think we need a motion on this, and it's not on the agenda, but I think we certainly, by consensus, should direct Craig to go forward, make contact with Mr. Brittner, and pursue enforcement if necessary. Is that the consensus of the board?
Yes.
Yeah. You believe that?
Okay, that's what we'll do.
All right.
You have direction, Craig?
Excuse me?
That's your direction. Go ahead.
Yes, I will make contact and report to the board at the December meeting what success has been achieved with that initial contact.
Very good. Thank you. And then item D, update payment of Allen Country Club.
I think this is probably somebody else, their staff's moment of glory too. I'm just a reporting vessel here. That we received a check, I believe, for the full amount owed by Antelope Valley Country Club. So thank you to the director or directors that were involved in that and staff for doing that. I'm just the reporter of good news. So that's all I have to report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Craig. We appreciate that. And we're on item 13, board members' request for future agenda items. Not at this time. Okay.
I have one. I'd like to have on the next board meeting discussion of collection policies for our unpaid balances.
Oh.
Okay. Oh.
Never seen it before.
Oh. Okay. Anything else? So,
may I suggest, if the board is interested in the recent decision for the emergency resolution in terms of in-person meetings dissolving at the end of February, a short memo as to what that means and what our options are in terms of public accessibility, etc., at the December meeting, just so we're aware and up to date the evolution of the Brown Act issues.
Great, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? Brings us to closed session. Craig, do we go into closed session?
Yes.
Okay, for which items?
for the three items that are described in 14A, B, and C.
Great. Is there a motion to go into closed session for items A, B, and C?
So moved.
Motion made by Brandon. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Kathy. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion by roll call vote.
Director McLaren?
Yes.
Director Ariki?
Yes.
Director Calandri?
Yes.
Director Urasic?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes, motion's carried unanimously. And we will go into closed session right at 11 a.m. Bye, Mr. Kyle. Thank you for joining us.